Hey friends, what's up? It's Kate here and welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to take a moment and kind of chat with you about the idea that rejection is a form of God's redirection. I have seen this become true in my own life, and I also have been noticing recently a lot of people seem to be dealing with rejection lately, especially on Instagram and TikTok. I've been seeing so many people just get heartbroken about not being chosen by somebody they went on a date with, or not being chosen to get an offer from the dream job that they interviewed for. I think that this is just a part of life and something that we'll all have to kind of deal with at some point or another. And given my experience with rejection, this is almost kind of like my testimony that things do work out and you just really have to kind of push forward with a positive mindset. I really hope that this video helps you and you guys get some encouragement out of it. Let's just go ahead and get into all the ways that we can kind of deal with it and use it towards our power. The first thing that I wanted to make sure to point out is the idea that rejection does not hold any value over who you are as a person. And the reason why I say this is because recently I had somebody say to me in dating that they couldn't commit to me because of their own personal reasons. Immediately that had me spiraling and questioning why I wasn't good enough, or I was just kind of like pleading to God and saying, why wasn't this in the cards for me? And I think he just kind of has a way of showing us that he doesn't want certain things to follow through the way that we want them to, because if they do, then we'll end up missing the plan that he has for us. So if I had continued on dating that person, I probably would have been addicted to the high of constantly seeking validation from them and not from God. I also feel like I would have lost sight of my own dreams and my own reasons for, just being alive and living out God's purpose had I stayed with them. So Psalm 55:18 is a verse from the Bible that I definitely feel like drives this idea home. I have it written out on my laptop. I'm just going to read it to you because otherwise I would forget. But essentially it just says, he ransoms me and keeps me safe from the battle waged against me. And essentially I just think this kind of goes back to the idea that a lot of people tend to say often, and it's he sees and hears things that we can't. And I do think that he definitely has noticed things that happened behind closed doors and led me in a different direction because he said, not with my girl. I also think if God hadn't closed that specific door, I wouldn't have space in my heart for better things to come my way. I do believe that God has so many blessings for us that we just have no idea about. And I think honestly, that's one of the beauties of life, is that we don't know what the future holds. And sometimes if we just stay attached to one outcome, we can kind of forget to think about the possibilities that we could be missing out on. So I know for me, now that I have kind of an open mindset, I'm more excited to meet the next person, because now I know what are things that I need to look out for to kind of protect myself. If I meet someone in the future, moving forward, I know that if our values don't align, eventually it's kind of going to lead us down a path that's not going to end well. So I think that now I'm in a place where I can kind of save myself from that trouble moving forward. I personally think it's so cool that your future self can kind of go back and connect the dots along the way. So also too, I remember back in college, I was just very depressed all the time. I was socially anxious and I, wasn't in the best headspace, and I actually had to transfer home. And when I transferred home, my friends kind of encouraged me to join clubs and activities. So I did end up joining a sorority, and it was one that I really felt like I could be my best self in. And had I not joined that, I probably would have never met one of my best friends who also studied abroad with me in London. Yeah, I personally feel like I also wouldn't have had to make up credits, and I wouldn't have had to get the experience of exploring different countries that I've always wanted to try out. I think there's always like little God winks in things that you feel like might be situations or negative circumstances now, but when you look forward, they're really something that helps lead you to where you're supposed to be. When it comes to rejection, I also think that we kind of need to start straying away from the idea that we often tend to wish certain things didn't happen to us when they did. I know for me, there definitely were certain circumstances that I wish hadn't even happened to me, because then after the cutoff, I kind of had all of these memories that I had to just sit with. And I think sometimes we really have to take those as lessons instead of burdens that we have to carry. And one of the big things that really did help me during my time where I just kind of was like crying every night, and I basically was so heartbroken that I was calling out to God and saying, God, please take this pain away from me, because I can't take it anymore. I can't take this burden. And I think that you kind of have to change the burden into something that can be used for the greater good. For example, my heartbreak, I'm trying to utilize the lessons that I learned from that into creating videos and content for other people who are also going through the same thing and maybe have no idea where to kind of like start healing. So yeah, I just think that we have to kind of start to think about things in the bigger picture, and also just accept that things will happen in the way that they should. So I know I have given you a lot of examples from my own life of how rejection has led to redirection. So I'm just going to give you another example of things working out for someone when they, didn't see it coming. And one of those people is J.K. Rowling. I know people have, mixed opinions on her, but I think one thing that I have always kind of, liked about her is her resiliency. So when she first wrote the first copy of Harry Potter, it got turned down by 12 publishers, at least 12, and she still kept going. And I think that eventually her finding the right group of people to work with really does show that the more effort you put into something, the more you're going to get out of it. And oftentimes, the more we keep trying to force a certain door to be opened, the more it's just not going to open for us. And I think that we have to kind of start looking for other ways where blessings can come into our life. And sometimes we just, we don't even think about all the possibilities that really could be out there. I think it's also so important to have something as a stronghold for you that will just make you unshakable no matter what challenge might come your way. Because it is true, unfortunately, at the end of the day, we all will go through something difficult at some point in our lives. I think for me, having faith in God and having faith in the Word has been so comforting, even if the people in my life who I really do care about aren't always around to be there for me. So I think that has been crucial. And yeah, I just, love the idea that we can always change things around where we have to. We don't have to stick down the path that rejection is negative. We can change that around and make it into something positive. Another pattern that I've seen in my own way of thinking is the idea that rumination often tends to come with the aftermath of rejection. And what I mean by that is a lot of the time I will be just obsessively thinking about all the things that I wish I could have done differently. I'll say to myself, maybe if I was a little bit more relaxed, this person might still be in my life, or, maybe if I had done X, Y, Z, then this would happen. And I think we just kind of have to put all of that to rest and then just focus on reframing our mindset so that it's more positive and more definite about the idea that things will eventually work out for us in the end. Yeah, circumstances will come up where we're going to be rejected and things aren't going to work out, but we have to know that in the end, it's really what's supposed to be. And yeah, I think we just have to have hope in the idea that bigger and better things are coming our way. So that is pretty much all that I have to say on the topic. I know that I was rambling for a while, but I really hope that this helped you reframe the idea of rejection into something positive and something that can be really constructive in your life. If you guys have had similar experiences, please leave them in the comments down below, or you can also just say different ways that you like to kind of approach challenges and things happening in your life. I always think the human experience is so interesting. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye!